the meeting of the City of Kerrville
with lights.
Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. It's nice to see probably a couple of visitors here this morning. Our usual thing is to ask if you have anything you would like to address to the board. No? Having no input, we'll move along to approval of the minutes. If you've all read the minutes and are ready to make a proposal, so do it.
Move approval, please.
Second. Is there any discussion on the minutes? I read them. I thought they were excellent. It was almost as though I didn't miss the meeting. Having a motion made and seconded, no discussion, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item is number 3, consideration and possible action. Ordinance number 2018-17, amending Chapter 74, Parks and Recreation. Ashley, would you like to lead us on that?
Sure. Back in the summer, we brought a couple of proposed rules before the board that you ultimately voted on for the sports complex. Those 3 items were no pets, no smoking, and by reservation use only. So as we sat down to kind of prepare the ordinance, there were a couple additional items that came up that we saw during kind of the soft opening and the use of the complex, in addition to research we've done with other complexes. So we decided to go ahead and bring this entire ordinance back to you, a revision to it for your consideration and hopefully approval. We do plan on taking this to the council Tuesday night for their first reading, and then we'll take it to their second meeting in March for our second reading and adoption. Essentially, we cleaned it up a little bit. Section 74-A. A was essentially talking about the times of the park, so we moved that down a little bit. Cleaned up some language. We added application of fire code on section 74B. That should actually be in blue. That should not be stricken. That's an addition.
Which one?
74-4B. We added some language for the sports complex opening and closing hours, pretty much consistent with the other parks, but we also added language as far as closing times to be consistent with our contractor's agreement with us. And then we have the additional rules applicable to the complex, specifically no alcohol, no pets, no abusive, vulgar, threatening language, no artificial noise makers, which are air horns, the clappers, whistles, so those kind of things. Prohibiting skateboards, scooters, rollerblades, and roller skates. Prohibiting bicycles anywhere except for paved, parking lot or improved areas. And then prohibiting the use of drones, generators, or grills unless they have permission through us to do so. And that's essentially all of the revisions.
I've got one question. With baseball teams coming in, it's been my experience when my grandson was playing anyway, that they really like to bring their own food and drink in. Mm-hmm. And I don't, how does that,
Yeah, we actually took that out. This is an old copy that you received, but we did actually strike that language.
That's right.
Food and drink is allowed on the soccer side, baseball side. Our vendor, our contractor wants to make money through their concessions, essentially. So that's something that, it'll be a technical rule, probably loosely enforced unless it becomes a really big issue, but we're not going to make it a law. We're just going to kind of see how things go.
Yeah, I mean, the concession thing for me, I have, the whole thing of selling water and disposable bottles, single use and all of that, it just really, anything we can do to step up and encourage people to bring reusable water bottles that then they can fill in a water, at a water station of some sort versus selling plastic bottles and more plastic into the environment. I think any steps that we can take towards that would be, I would be very much behind it, versus enforcing people or making people buy bottled water. That's or bottled drinks or any kind of extra plastic.
do we have a water fountain or something
Mm-hmm.
on both sides?
We do, at each pot.
Do we have containers for recycling separation too?
We do.
Good.
Yes.
So hopefully
And,
if people get those bottles, at least they'll put them in the containers to get them recycled.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm having a problem with people taking recycling anymore.
Yeah.
Are there are the water fountains just like what we always called the bubblers, or are there actually the ones that you can put a reusable water bottle and then the water fills?
They're the traditional fountains.
Okay. And then I had another question, there's a change for the river trail in the hours of operation. Because the river trail has been dawn to dusk. And now you're saying that the river trail is gonna be dawn to 11, which I actually think is a really good change. Because when winter time comes, there's a lot of people that use the river trail with lights after dinner or in the dark.
Where are you, Lisa?
Well, I mean, I'm just assuming because the river trail isn't specifically mentioned as with a different operating hour, and
Oh,
that you're
river-
saying that parks and recreation areas,
No, River Trail has its own section that's not included in this. These are just the pieces that were
okay,
revised. Yeah, River Trail hours did not change. It's still a day use trail.
okay.
It has no lights on it.
Any other comments on the draft? Hearing that there aren't any,
Motion to approve.
Second.
any discussion on the motion? All in favor of, and I think our terminology here, do we actually approve the recommendation? Okay. All in favor of approving the recommendation, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is information and discussion.
Item 4A would be the update on the comprehensive plan, and I will turn it over to our Deputy City Manager, Mr. E.A. Hoppy.
Good morning. Thank
Morning.
you for allowing me to be a part of your Parks Board meeting this morning. I'm not going to try my best not to bore you guys. I know various folks have been involved in different aspects of the comp plan, but we're just taking an effort right now as we're about 2/3, maybe 3/4 of the way through the comprehensive planning process to come before the boards and just kind of give an update on where we're at, just to make sure everybody's kind of aware of what's going on and sort of where we're at in the process. So, like I said, I'm going to try not to bore you, but I'm going to kind of fly through this pretty quick. I want to talk a little bit about the community retreat that was held back in the fall, and the stakeholder interviews and the vision statement that was created, and then the community open houses that occurred in February, which culminated in a draft preferred scenario and a set of guiding principles and policies. And I think those have been distributed to you guys in advance, and we wanted to get it out to this group in particular, given the content area surrounding around parks and open spaces and the river, and then talk a little bit about next steps and kind of where the process is going, because pretty quickly we're hoping to be able to move in the kind of June, early summer time frame, culminating in adoption of that document. So again, community retreat overview. The community retreat, this process really kicked off in about the September timeframe with some key stakeholder interviews leading up to the community retreat, which occurred right before Thanksgiving. There were the station activities at that community retreat were derived based off of the input stakeholder interviews, and that occurred with the council, planning and zoning commission, various groups, different groups, the hospital, education arts groups, faith-based community, et cetera. You can see kind of the laundry list there. And then we also had a third round of interviews with the development community, commercial real estate brokers, and key property owners around town. So again, that input that was derived from there led to 6 input stations at the community retreat, which was held just down the street here in the downtown area. Essentially, it was attainable housing, activities for all ages, downtown Kerrville, Guadalupe River, infrastructure, and economic strategy and jobs. So the community was invited, and we had about 150, 175 participants come on a Saturday afternoon, or really Saturday about 10 to 2 p.m., provide input at those various stations, and then also go through a table mapping exercise, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So part of the effort was to derive both some initial vision statements coming out of that community retreat, as well as the tabletop mapping exercise. So the brainstorming, they talked about different concepts and pieces that were applicable and important for their vision for Kerrville over the next 30 years, moving towards 2050. You can see this is a little diagram of word art, various phrases that were captured out of that community input from those individuals and from the stakeholder group in advance of that. The bigger words are the ones that showed up more often within those statements. So this is what came out of that. The vision statement that was derived and ultimately was adopted by the steering committee was Kerrville will be a vibrant, welcoming, and inclusive community that respects and protects the natural environment that surrounds it, seeks to attract economic growth and development, provides opportunities for prosperity, personal enrichment, and intellectual growth for people of all ages, and does so while preserving the small town charm, heritage, arts, and culture of the community. So with that in mind, there was also a table mapping exercise that occurred. There were 21 tables of citizens, and they were able to do basically what we call a chip exercise and put different place types at different areas all around town, just to give us an idea of what types of development the community was preferring and where geographically across the community they were preferring for that to occur potentially into the future. So based on those vision statements created each table, those were kind of allocated across the community in different ways. And what we began to see was that there were, as we were able to take that information, the consultants derived 3 different scenarios out of those different table exercises. And essentially it was an outward growth scenario, which means essentially the same place types, but just further out into the extraterritorial jurisdiction area, outside, expanding the city limits, but in the same way, the same level of development you have now. A compact growth strategy, which indicated really more emphasis of growth within development within the existing city limit boundary, but looking at new and different place types that make fit the community better over the next 30 years. And then strategic growth areas, looking at certain nodes of areas, for instance, along the river, along I-10 and 16, looking at Thompson Drive, strategic areas around the community that may have additional emphasis for development over the next 30 years. So that was kind of the 3 distinct scenarios that were indicated by the community. So taking that information then, we brought those 3 scenarios back to the community in the February timeframe, and there were 2 community open houses that were held, and I know I saw many of your faces at those, so I'm really appreciative of you all participating in that effort. February 5th and 6th at the Dietert Center, we had close to, I can't remember what the total was, we were about 250, I think, between the 2 nights, including a lot of the subcommittee members and staff and comprehensive planning steering committee. So really good turnout at both of those. We were extremely pleased. So again, we had various stations across the room there, and essentially people were able to do a sticker exercise and tell us, based off of those different scenarios, what their preferences were for the 3 different types in each categorical different area. So for economic development, it kind of the 3 different scenarios have a different impact, and so based off those impacts, what's your preference? For parks and river space, there's a different impact, and so what's your preference there? And so what we saw coming out of that was there was an emphasis from the community on strategic and compact growth. Now, does that mean that there won't be any outside growth that occurred with that? Absolutely not. It's Texas. It's a development-friendly state, but the community can help incentivize growth to go in certain patterns. And so what the community asked is for what the city does to emphasize that strategic and compact growth over the next 30 years to achieve the community's vision for what Kerrville will be in 2050. But ultimately, it will be a blend. So a little bit about kind of where we're at in the process. As you can see, that community input and the retreat maps, that was really kind of in that fall time frame. The analysis of the common themes, and then deriving those alternative scenarios and some of the evaluation criteria by the subcommittees to how we would evaluate those alternative scenarios. And then we moved to the open house process. And so where we're at right now is a preferred scenario that came out of those open houses and the feedback from the community, as well as some of the guiding principles that have come out of the subcommittee. So the draft preferred scenario you can see right here, and we'd be happy to get you some of these maps, and I think these are actually on our Kerrville 2050 website already. I know it's a little bit hard to see on the screens here, but it does begin to indicate at least some blocked out areas of where the community has said that they would prefer for future development or redevelopment to occur, and then also where those different areas of emphasis could and or should be in the future. Also aspects such as multimodal improvements, as far as transportation goes, a higher level of reinvestment in existing neighborhoods, strategic infill, with limited additional expansion out into the ETJ.
EA,
yes, ma'am.
What do those numbers correlate to?
Those are simply just labeling and designating, because there are different place types that were indicated. So for instance, although the community said that the downtown area may be an area of strategic growth, it may not be an area that they're emphasizing regional commercial, for instance. It's an area where they were emphasizing mixed use. So there are different place types that were indicated within the different strategic areas.
So for instance, number 10, what would that be?
And I can't even see where 10 is on
Yeah,
there.
That's like
Yep, so
That's
that's
along
kind of
60.
that,
173
that's sort of that
corridor?
173 corridor, or really kind of the corridor between, or next to 173 and the river in that area. And so there was a certain grouping of place types that the community said, yeah, this is appropriate in that general 10 area, but maybe this isn't appropriate. And so each one of them was designated a little bit differently. And it's not granular yet. What this will do, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but this will influence the next step in the process, which is really looking more granular at the actual land uses and where those land uses could occur. Because even within that corridor, for example, you may have a lot of variation where something that's appropriate at, for instance, 534 and 173 may not be appropriate further down that corridor. So again, these are the guiding principles and policies, and I know you can't really see it on this screen, but we wanted to get this in front of you because this was some of the work that the subcommittees on river, parks, and open space were able to derive, and then that had recently went in front of the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee, and they were able to do a little bit of wordsmithing there and kind of a combination of different aspects and trying to synthesize those a little bit. So that's kind of where we're at right now with the guiding principles. And the hope is to let that continue to percolate a little bit, and then have really the next step in the process is for the subcommittee to meet again. This will be their third and last meeting in the late March timeframe, and to really look at the action items that hang under each one of those guiding principles. So how do you really looking at the ways that the community, things that need to be evaluated and different tasks that need to be achieved in order to move towards those, emphasizing those continued guiding principles. So again, these are all open to the public, and you'll see in particular River Corridor and Parks, March 23rd, 3 to 5 p.m. That'll be hosted here in City Hall, will likely be upstairs in the large conference room.
And that's all on the website.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And it's up here on the last slide in different communication avenues. Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee meetings, again, those are, we've got a few of those left as we are moving towards eventual adoption in the June timeframe. We've got about 3 of those meetings left, and again, the public, those are open meetings and open to the public. We've got various avenues that will continue to communicate the progress on this effort. The website, again, Kerrville 2050, it's really slick. If you haven't had a chance to go take a look at it, please do so. A lot of this information is much more in-depth, and you're able to really pull up a lot of information there, and summaries of meetings as well as all the background information. If you've got specific feedback on guiding principles or any of the elements of where we're at, please do email us at info@kerrville2050.com. We have Facebook and Twitter accounts that are specific to this effort, and then we'll have an additional newsletter coming out in the April timeframe.
So I'm on the website right now, and I don't see anywhere where the meeting schedule is listed. That meeting schedule slide that you just had,
Okay.
it's not.
we'll have to look at that. I know this was.
I know, that's on this presentation, but I'm not finding it
listed on
on the
there.
2050 website.
Let us look at that. We were just recently confirmed these, so we'll double check and make sure that those are all posted on there.
Yeah.
Be happy to answer any questions you have. Like I
Yeah.
said, this is mostly just for information. Certainly don't expect the group to dig into any specific details.
I don't want to get into details, but I'm just curious if you could comment on why we don't like pocket parks.
Sure, I think Director Boyle can provide some additional feedback on that.
Sure. Pocket parks are typically undesirable for park systems. They're smaller, especially with the they're harder to maintain, and you can't really develop much around them. You do see typical pocket parks usually around downtowns and areas like that, but we typically like to have the bigger parks, which have more multi-use than such small areas to where they're difficult to maintain.
So when you say pocket parks, you're referring to city-owned pocket parks, not HOA-owned pocket parks?
Yes.
That's correct.
I'd differentiate that because at least, I think, I don't know if River Hill has HOA, I think Comanche Trace has some
Comanche does.
HOAs, pocket parks that, I think you ought to be encouraging, personally, the developers, when they put in, have the HOA own and maintain
Yeah.
parks.
One of the discussions we'll be bringing back to this group as we come to the culmination of the park or of the comprehensive planning process will be the park dedication ordinance. We currently have, as part of the development process, and there is a designated amount of park that has to occur when development occurs, and or a donation of land or monetary value. Unfortunately, it's pretty dated. It's in need of some updating and also just some guided principle thinking from this group and from the city council on what way can that best work. And maybe it's a combination of, something is created on the private level from an HOA standpoint, but there's also something for the greater public piece too. That's something for you all to discuss and something we'll be bringing to you this summer.
Can you just go over the definition again of a pocket park?
It's a acre of land that's less than 1 acre of land,
Right.
essentially. Very small piece of property.
Right. Versus like a neighborhood park or a. Yeah.
You got it.
Pocket parks are traditionally very high maintenance and often in an area where there's also high vehicular traffic, and it's aesthetically, it's fine, but practically, it's very difficult.
So we would want to encourage more of a neighborhood park where you could actually do something with it, where you could actually go and use the park.
Right. Neighborhood or regional type use parks is what we would be going after or recommending.
And neighborhood scale would be Carver, for instance.
Carver, Elm Creek Park,
Yeah.
Westland,
Travis.
Sample.
BC, Sample, all of those types of
Regional
parks.
would be more like Louise Hayes Park. Okay, thank you very
Anything
much.
else?
I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You need a call
I'm sorry?
on the next item on the agenda.
No.
The director's report.
We're on the projects update.
Yes.
I assume Ashley's gonna go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Wasn't sure if you're going to call it or not. All right, I'll give you a quick update on our projects that are currently going on, followed by an update on all of our activities. First thing we have, of course, the River Trail West. Our next segment, it goes, as you know, from Lowry to the Dietert Center. Contractor is mobilized on site. They mobilized February 13th. The trail has been staked and the site clearing is about 95% complete at this time. And then soon we'll be following construction, and that's scheduled to be completed for late summer, early fall timeframe. Of course, we'll have a ribbon cutting to celebrate that opening as well. HB Tennis Center, our consultant is about 90% complete with their master plan documents and design. They're preparing the cost estimates, We do have a workshop scheduled for council in April, about mid-April timeframe, and we are expected to start construction in the fall. Since we are taking this to council in April, I will probably recommend a special meeting to be held with you guys before that, so y'all have the opportunity to review the plans, the cost estimates, and to provide your input if you so have any. More to come on that one. Sports complex reuse pond, the project has been awarded. Construction should be completed by June-ish time frame. And again, it's the 1.5 million gallon pond so that we can use reuse water for irrigation at the facility. Right now we're using potable.
Is that what's going on up there, like kind of the northeast?
On the baseball side?
Yeah.
No, that's actually on private development. The pond's gonna be on the soccer side, kind of behind
Okay.
the area, yeah, closer to,
So
between the
all the
complex
stuff,
and Holdsworth.
that northeast side, that's a private development that's going on?
Correct.
Kind of coming off the road that
Yes.
Huh.
That's not our property. Parkland dedication ordinance, as Mr. Hoppy referenced, this will take place after the completion of the comp plan. We will pull that, look at it. We're already kind of looking at it now, but we want to see where the comp plan lands. That way we can dovetail the process for that. So we'll be bringing that back to you in a few months. Okay, aquatics feasibility study. I know I've been giving you some updates via email, but essentially, the project will be evaluating the existing condition of the complex, looking at it to see if we want a competitive facility, community facility, combination of both. How much is it going to cost? We have the workforce to be able to support this kind of year-round facility and all of that good stuff. So where we are in that process, I'll get there in just a second, but just to kind of remind you of our issues there. Circled there in the red, you can't really see it because it's in the water, but, but we do have some issues with cracking and divots in the pool. Here is a picture of kind of a hole in the plaster. You can see where the leaves are actually outlining part of the hole. We have several of those in the pool. We have issues with our infrastructure there. We have no designated first aid area. We get a lot of nosebleeds. We get a lot of cuts and boo-boos over there. So when we have to treat that, we treat that, in front of the public, and that's not something that's typically desired or recommended. You don't want to come pay for your admission and be seen as somebody be treating a bloody nose over there. It's not very sanitary. So that's one of the issues that we have. There's no AC. If you look at the guard, you can tell that they're hot. The cashier brings her own little fan to try to cool her down, but there's absolutely no HVAC at the facility at all. And these kids are outside working in the Texas summer heat all day long. They get, a 20-minute break every hour and a half or so. They get to come in basically out of the sun. So we try to keep them cool, but that's something that we'll want to add for them to be able to keep them healthy. We have inadequate storage over there. We have a lot of stuff that we need at the pool. We have a lot of equipment, and we just kind of do the best we can on, putting it where we can on the space that we have. Of course, we have the dated restrooms. They're not ADA compliant because this facility was built prior to those regulations going into place, kind of grandfathered in. A pump room needs some to be addressed as well. A lot of this original piping and infrastructure is very old. Some of it's original. We go in and replace the sand and do upgrades and replace the impellers and motors when we need to. We have some backups, but this is essentially becoming older infrastructure, and it needs to be addressed and updated. So some of the trends in aquatics now, these type of pools that you see now are not typically being built unless they're being built for a competitive facility. People want to see something more like this. They're play structures, they're fun, they catch the eye, they're more of an experience. It's more of this kind of stuff versus, a hole in the ground with water in it. These are actually pictures I took from the City of Round Rock's facility when I took the lifeguards up there last summer for their state competition. And I was really impressed with their facility. It's pretty new, and it's large, and it's beautiful. It has a lot of fun features to it, and it was after they opened for the day, it was just packed. People were having fun. You could rent the cabanas out. They had concessions. They had the zero depth entries to the top right. They had the lazy river at the bottom right. They had the big play structure at the top left. And this is the type of facilities that people want to see nowadays, and that they'll travel to come to.
But it still would address the function of the competitive swimming aspect, being an Olympic-sized pool.
Yeah, not that type of facility. So the next one is more of a natatorium or competitive facility, and that's something that, like I said, we'll be looking at in our analysis to see what do we actually need. The school district and the university have talked about needing or wanting to create a competitive swim program. So a natatorium would address that, but does that address the needs of what the community wants? Do they want a play feature, or do they want something more like this, or do they even care? So that's something that the study will look at too. So my recommendation, ultimately, in a perfect world, and if we had, all the money in the world, 2 facilities would be ideal. Obviously, that's probably not going to be feasible. It's probably going to come down to the dollars. But if it's something to where we could do a combination, that would be great. The timeline on this, we brought it to you guys back in July of last year. You approved it. We asked council for authorization back in January to apply to the EIC, which was granted. We brought it to the EIC last month, and they gave us a preliminary nod on this project. So what we're doing now is we're preparing the funding agreement, and we'll hold a public hearing at their March meeting, and then we will take it back to council at the end of this month at their final meeting for a final approval for the funding agreement. And after that is complete, we will initiate the RFQ process and get this out on the street.
So there's gonna be a public hearing on 3/19?
Yes.
At the EIC.
At the EIC meeting. And that's the perfect time for anybody that either supports, doesn't support, has comments, is interested. It's their time to get their comments on the record as well at the EIC meeting, and I'd also encourage them to come to the council meeting as well.
What time is the
EIC
meeting?
is at 4. Council will be held at 6.
The next day?
But
The
just
20th.
27th.
the EIC meeting funding agreement, that's all we're looking for. The public hearing is only a question of should we spend the money to do the study. Is that correct?
Correct.
Ashley, do you know when the study's done, look at what facilities already exist in the community? For instance, I think of the Croc Center, has a lot of playthings now, and they wouldn't necessarily recommend we replicate what's already in the community then.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that'll be part of their analysis. They'll look to see what's in the community now, what's lacking, what's needed, what's existing. So, okay.
Are you looking for comments?
Do you have any?
Questions?
Yeah, sure.
One of your comments was, in a perfect world, we'd have 2 and all that stuff. I just want to encourage you all to look at it from a perfect world standpoint. I can see a natatorium plus basketball courts plus handball courts that are available for the children and kids of this community, and I wouldn't think it should only be EIC money. I think public-private partnerships, like we did with the athletic complex, I don't know where that money where the public or private money comes from, but we ought to at least consider it. And because I think we have a deficit of place for kids to go play, and in the winter, basketball, handball, whatever, indoor swimming pools. So if the EIC supports spending the money, I'd open our mind and look at it from a big picture. We'll always narrow it back down from an affordability standpoint, but let's don't narrow ourselves down at this point. My own comment.
Yeah, I agree. And the city does not have a recreation center. A lot of cities do have. We do have the Croc Center in town that fills some of that niche too. But you're right, a recreation center that has gyms and classrooms and a natatorium and a walking trail above it and a workout room. Is that something that our community could support and needs? Is that something that would take too much away from the Croc Center and the local fitness centers? I don't know, but that would be, I'm not sure a rec center would fall into this feasibility study, but that sure would be neat to look at.
Well, I think while you're looking at an natatorium, that's the only thinking is you brought it. So, okay.
Yeah, no, good comments.
Does that conclude your project update?
It does.
Okay, then let's move on to the director's report.
Okay, so some of the things that we've been working on in-house for our winter projects, we did some minor improvements at the downtown pavilion. We went through and replaced all of the benches that were there. If you recall, we inherited this pavilion and all of the corresponding equipment with it. So we budgeted for, and we went in and replaced those benches. Before, they were kind of the residential kind you kind of buy at, you know, Lowe's or Home Depot, and they just weren't meant for commercial use. So we replaced all of those. We're working on getting the plaques redone as well. We've already heard comments back from the donors of those benches that they are sure glad to see that they were upgraded, and they're so tickled that we did that. So we went through Carver Park, and we replaced the backboards on the basketball goal. We striped the pavilion. We're looking at doing some lighting improvements over there too, so we can get some more use over there and play. We're looking at doing, I know Josh is looking at doing an adult and maybe youth teen basketball program over there, maybe do some tournaments, see if we can get some interest to further program additional sport and additional in this facility that we currently have. Right now, you'll see us out in the parks everywhere. It's the time of year that we do all of our tree maintenance because A, it's the time of year you do that, and B, it's the only time that we really have to do that because we're not mowing right now. So we're going through all the parks and doing this. We just hit downtown. We're just cleaning everything up, pruning it up, lifting trees. We're addressing ball moss and working on that. We'll soon be in the parks mowing. As you can see, the grass is starting to grow and pop and turn green. Shell Hayes Mansion, downtown. This is a city facility venue now. I'm not sure if you guys knew that. It was gifted to us, I think, a couple of years ago. And what we did is we went back in the back end of it, and it essentially looked like a jungle haunted house. It was very overgrown. And so over the last few months, we've had staff over there working and cleaning up and, you know, removing dead trees and treating trees and removing, you know, landscaping that was dead or dying or didn't really kind of work with the property. So we went in there and cleaned it up. That was actually kind of a big project for us.
Excuse me, Ashley, are those grounds open to the public now?
It is not. It is not yet.
Actually, is that on Water Street?
It is.
Okay.
It's right next to the library,
Yeah,
right across
okay,
from the park.
I got
garage.
you, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What is the purpose, what will we eventually do with the Shell House Mansion? Do we have a plan, or is it tourist history?
Yeah, a number of aspects that have been looked at for feasibility within there. We're going through a concept plan with an architect for the interior. We went through a concept plan with a different architect for the exterior elements. Got some price estimates on that last year. So we're continuing to look at both the financial feasibility as well as working with some community partners on different aspects that may go ultimately be utilized there. Nothing definitive yet, though.
Good questions. You may recall we now have a bat house in Lee Monroe Park. It can hold up to 2,500 bats. It looks like a small bat house, but they can apparently cram in there. So we're watching it and kind of looking at it weekly, making sure it doesn't become, you know, a wasp condo in the meantime. But it can take, they're migrating back into Texas, kind of the time frame now, from Central America, and so they said they could take a few months for the bats to kind of realize it's there, but we'll keep you posted on when Dracula and his buddies move in, so we're excited.
It could take a few years,
Yeah.
based on some people's experience. Where exactly is this bat house?
If you look at the picture, it's kind of behind the dog park area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we chose this area because they need adequate swoop radius, they need to be away from trees, they need to be near a water source, which the river's there, and kind of away from stuff for them to apparently feel more comfortable, so that's where we put it. If it's popular and if it grows, then we can look at putting it in some of our other parks, maybe Kerrville Shriner Park and other areas that we think might be a good location for them. Okay, activities update. Kerrville Shriner Park, we have spring break coming up next week, and we are full. With the exception of tent sites, those will kind of fill up a little bit, but all of our RV sites, mini cabins, rental facilities, all of those, just like every other year, are full. So we're getting geared up for that. Tina and Chuck and their staff are putting their roller skates on, as Tina would say. Our bow hunt, we held, of course, at the end of last year. We harvested a total of 11, and those consist of whitetails, spikes, and exotics. We did visit with the Texas Parks and Wildlife and our local biologist just recently, and asked them to kind of come out and do another survey and provide the recommendations. So they recommend us to continue with the hunt, but essentially reduce it down from 40 hunters to 30, so that'll take the hunt to about a week and a half or so, which is great for us because we're staffing it, and it takes a lot of staff time to go and manage the hunt and also take care of the other side of the park with just 4 staff. So it's great for us, and it kind of controls the population, which we're wanting to do, and they also recommend to continue doing cedar eradication when we can. Okay. Hopefully you have seen this already. We mailed this puppy out this year for the first time ever. I was just tickled pink to be able to do that. So we mailed it out to all of our water customers, which is roughly 8,000 people. So 8,000 households received this. We also are dropping it off, of course, at the CVB, the hotels, businesses around town that'll take them. We have them at our office. We'll have them at the pool, and other city buildings as well. This is something that's designed, as you recall, in-house. Our IT graphic designer, Martin, I'll give him props. He's back there doing Oz behind all of this stuff. He designs this, and he does a fantastic job. Sports leagues, this is all of Josh's programs. I'll brag on him a little bit. We just wrapped up our soccer league last night. Do you want to announce the champion?
Yes, so it was a super exciting game. It ended in a draw, and we went to penalties, and the 4th seed beat the 2nd seed, so the underdogs won the league. I got some pictures, winners, and they get their team name engraved on our trophy that we'll keep in my office. I want to try and find a cool place to put the trophy where more people will see it, so maybe I'll get creative with that. So there were 8 teams, so that was exciting. I played soccer for Shriner in college, so I have a heart for soccer, and we're doing a good job with it, so it was fun last night. Very fun.
So this is something that we brought back. We tried last year and then kind of took a break for a few years, but we brought it back, and we had 6 teams last season, and Josh has got it up to 8 teams this time. So, and I expect it to continue to grow. So we'll continue to offer 2 leagues, and then possibly a summer if softball doesn't make it. We've got adult flag football. We're in the middle of our season now. We have 8 teams as well playing at Kerrville, and both soccer and football. We'll look at the sports complex's scheduling and timing, and if we can play over there, we will. But if it's going to conflict with their programming, then we'll play at Kerrville Park. Adult softball league, we're also offering registration actually now, this spring league. This is a program that we've offered for years, and softball, for whatever reason, is declining across kind of the nation. So we don't typically see our leagues have been making lately, but we're continuing to try, and if they continue to not make, we're just going to continue to offer the programs that people want to play, like soccer and flag football and kickball, and just kind of move with the trends there. A new league that we're starting up is kickball. I don't know if you recall, but we held a intercity department kickball tournament last summer, and we had 2 teams sign up, which is the police and fire department, of course. And this is actually a picture of Chief Knight going to take his shot at the ball there. So we're actually going to open this up for the public in the summer league and see what we get. Sports complex, they're rocking and rolling over there. Of course, Our Lady of the Hills played their soccer games at the complex. They loved it. Crush has already started up and held a small tournament. Hill Country Youth Soccer Association held a tournament a couple of weeks ago as well, and they'll be starting their league up, their season up very shortly.
Crush Soccer League? That sounds serious.
Yeah, it's
it
a
is.
select league. Yeah.
Elite teams.
Crush is more of a select, and then Hill Country Youth is more of the rec league, so it fills both niches. DBAT's also rocking and rolling over there. They have tournaments scheduled for every weekend throughout the end of the summer. They've got Little League that's going to be starting up there. They're offering softball leagues and specialty programs that they're doing over there as well. So they're rocking and rolling over there. Special events, we held our daddy-daughter dance. I know some of y'all volunteered. I know Bedford, you helped set up, and it was very appreciated. We appreciate your help. It was very successful. We moved it to the Hill Country Youth Event Center this year because we simply outgrew it at the Dietert Center. We were able to double our capacity and registrations while keeping the quality there for the event. So we had 500 ticket sales, and show you a couple pictures from the event. So when the girls walk up, staff hands them a flower, and here's a couple of pictures of people dressed up and enjoying the event. It's very sweet, and definitely our most popular event that we have. The girls have fun. They're there with their friends. The balloons is very popular. We forgot that one year, and boy, did we hear about it. Where are the balloons? We like to play with them. Sorry. So here's a shot from the stage. It shows everybody having a good time, dancing. We've had the decorations. We had some lights and had a DJ come in to play. And Buzzy's Barbecue served the meal, and we had a photographer there to take commemorative photographs, and all of that's included in the ticket price, and it's $45 per couple, with discounts for families with additional children. Okay, our next big event that we are doing is our Get Outdoors Day in June. It's free. If you recall this last year, we had knockerball, we had dunk tanks, which some of the council members, in addition to myself, was in. We had some yoga, we had wildlife education, some passive recreation activities such as, you know, you can see the parachute, we had horseshoes, we had tennis, we had golf, we had a bunch of just pickup games out there for people to have fun at.
Parade.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And you can see, I think that's Councilmember Baruti in the dunk tank there. And you know, you can look, we had, one of the most popular things there was the Nerf war. We had some bunkers set up and some Nerf guns, and it was really a good time. We had one of our staff there, that's Steve Peters at the bottom with the snake, with his educational program, and just a fun event. So this is something that we're looking to continue to grow. We're adding a 5K to this event this year in conjunction with Pint and Plow. That'll kick off the event, and then we're just going to continue to program and add to it and make it a really fun day. We have our skateboard competition in June as well at Singing Winds. Something about, we have usually 15, 20 participants, but it's something that they really enjoy, and it's a neat event, and T&J really helps us program this event for us. We have our Movies in the Park series as well. We have 3 movies held at Louise Hayes Park. Those are sponsored by the Callow Foundation, and then we have 2 that are held at Kerrville Shriner, and those are sponsored by the Bosworth Company. And they're free to the public. They start at dark and give away free popcorn, and people have a good time. This is something that's new. It's not a picture, obviously, because this is a new event. That's actually a picture of the band that was at the skate competition. But we're starting up a summer concert series at Louise Hayes Park that we're doing 2 this year, but next year we budgeted and plan to expand that to maybe a 6 concert series. But that's something we're trying this year, hoping to have kind of a smaller, intimate type gathering. We're not looking to do a July 4th type thing. Something just people can come out, and after Friday, maybe after work, have something to eat and just come listen to some good music and have a nice night.
Is this kind of like when you used to do the Sundays in the park?
Second Sunday Serenades?
Yeah.
Kind of similar, yeah. Yeah, pretty much same feel. We're also doing a hot rod night. More details will be coming on this one, but this is something that we think will be fun to be held in Louise Hayes Park. Hot rods, cars, bands, hamburgers, hot dogs, foods, you know, milkshakes, that kind of thing. So more to come on that. Of course, we do the July 4th fireworks show. We provide staff for this event as well. We've got the Kids Triathlon in conjunction with Lisa's bike shop, does a fantastic job. We have the Wet and Wag, that's also popular right after the Kids Triathlon. And we also support these events as well, the Festival of the Arts, Fourth on the River, Shakespeare in the Park, the Triathlon, the Chalk, and also the Farmers Market. Have y'all been to the Farmers Market yet? Yeah? Yeah, so they're actually expanding. They're going, starting in April, they're going to be going weekly, and weekly from April to October, and then after that they'll be monthly in between. So it's a neat little market. They do it at the downtown pavilion in the evenings, and it's something that's continuing to grow and expand, obviously, since they're going weekly, but it's something that we also support.
Do we charge them to use the pavilion?
We don't. They have council approved an agreement with them, and we're actually taking that back to council on Tuesday with some modifications to it for a final agreement. But part of that is we are not charging them for the rental of the facility, and we're providing, you know, some of our equipment for them to use and providing a little bit of funding for them to do some marketing. Okay. Aquatics, of course, we have open swim. We are expanding, we're trying to expand our season this summer to go to the middle of August. Usually we close August 1, now we're trying to go to August 17th. So that's something that we're really talking to the guards about when we bring them in for their interviews. We need you to stay on a little bit longer. So we're shooting for that this year, and we'll see how far we can get. Promotional days, these are new. We're gonna have a series of days to where if you come either dressed in their themed clothes or on this particular holiday, that you get in free. Like Father's Day, dads get in free with the paid child's admission. You know, you get free ice cream on July 4th between 2 and 4. So something to try to, you know, do some more fun stuff there. We're also going to do a family swim night on July 28th. At 6:30, we're inviting people to come to the pool. We're going to have food and games and just fun stuff for them to come and swim after hours at the facility and just kind of have a fun time with their families and friends. We have rentals available at the pool as well. We're trying to up our ante on marketing for these, so kind of get the awareness out so we can get more rentals for these. But you can rent both of these facilities during the day at the pool. We have our swim lessons program. We have private swim lessons, and new this year we're offering semi-private lessons where we have one instructor and two participants that are around the same level. Private lessons is something that's really taken off for us in the past couple of years, so we're continuing to kind of grow with it. Of course, we have our senior water aerobics. We offer adult lap swim in the summer as well in the mornings, and we are offering a new program this year as well, our junior lifeguard camp. This is something that's for ages 10 to 14. And we're hoping to use this kind of as a recruiting tool for the older kind of age classification. So, because we hire at 15, so if they complete a season at 14, we're hoping the next year they'll come back and apply with us. We have our, of course, our guards that are trained under the Ellison Associates Lifeguard Training Program. We get audited twice a summer, and each time we receive really great reviews and scores. We'll continue our guard team program this year as well, where they go and compete. Last year they won all the competitions that they went to. And finally, just a quick update on our commemorative programs. We do the benches, the bricks downtown, and the trees in the park. We are looking to focus our trees on the river trail in the west side of Louise Hayes Park by that trailhead, and start planting trees along the trail to provide some shade in that area. So when people come to us looking for spots for trees, that's really where we're trying to push them to plant them. And then our benches program's really taken off. I don't know if you've been on the trail lately, but we've added several benches. Those are $1,000 a pop. So if people want a commemorative plaque and they want their bench, they pay that fee, and then we work with them to find a site and get their plaque on the bench. So that's something that those two in particular have really taken off in the past several months. So wanted to talk about that. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have one. The signage at the DBAC facility, who approves that?
Which signage?
The one that says baseball, you left softball totally off.
Yeah, the wayfinding signs or the actual monument
The actual sign.
The actual monument signs. Those were done by the Callow Foundation. They actually paid for all of the signage there. But that was brought up by somebody else too. We had that question, and essentially it's more of the general sport. You know, baseball's, softball's over here, soccer's over here. You know, it's a multi-use facility. If we were to put everything on there, it would be baseball, softball, t-ball, little league. You know, it would just be, you know, too much.
You basically left the girls out. You made it baseball for boys by just putting baseball instead of baseball/softball.
That certainly wasn't the intention. It was more of a, like I said, generalized, these are where these type of fields are versus.
It could be a ballpark.
They could have made
And
it
they
a
could
whole
have
field.
left it off, and it would have covered everything. There is room down there to add that other piece.
Like I said, it wasn't our intention, but we can certainly, I mean, I don't know if we can go back and look at that, but it was just, that wasn't our intention to exclude anybody.
Callow funded that, didn't they?
They did.
I'll ask them about it.
The calendar looks wonderful, but it occurred to me that the moms aren't represented.
We thought about that. Yeah, we thought
You mean
about
the
Got
daddy-daughter?
father's
Mhm.
swimming event and the daddy-daughter dance, if there's something in May for the moms.
Yep, we've actually talked about that at one of our staff meetings, maybe incorporating a mother-son event. And what we are going to do this year is part of our outdoors day, and a new event that we're trying next year, a river festival, is incorporate more of the family stuff and more like maybe a mother-son, you know, Nerf war or something like that, that we can incorporate into one of those events as well.
Anything else? Looks like a wonderful schedule of activities.
Thank you. And of course, we're always looking for volunteers, so if you have time, would like to either help us with planning or setup or cleanup or work booths, we can definitely use the help. We're limited on
It's
staff.
good that Josh sends the emails
Yeah.
recruiting. I was able to help at times, and I'm always glad to if I'm available, so keep sending them.
Apologize for not helping on Valentine's, I had the flu, so I stayed home.
I was in Alaska, or I would help.
I would have much better been in Alaska.
Yeah. If we're finished with that portion, then I guess we're to future agenda items. Have any occurred to anyone that we might want for next time?
Any idea if we could get a report on how good the spring is for Yvette's?
Sure. Yeah, we can send out the tournaments.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're tracking those. Their first one they held in February, May. They had a couple not make, and then one was canceled due to weather their last weekend. But they do have one this weekend that's coming up that looks like it's going to make.
Thanks.
Sure.
Is there a weather stipulation in the, I mean, if it's pouring down rain, do they still play, or do
No.
they?
So staff has the ability to, kind of pull the reins back on. If we have bad weather, we'll call the soccer games, we'll call the baseball games, because we have put too much resources into
Yeah.
that facility to tear up the field. So if it's
Right.
something that's either going to be unsafe or it's going to cause damage to the fields, we'll stop.
So city has say, final
It's
say.
our facility, we do
Yeah.
have the say.
And the officials have say as well.
As the games
Yeah.
are running,
As the
yes,
games
for
start
sure.
running,
Yeah.
yes.
I guess that-
When do you expect to schedule the special meeting for the review your proposal from the tennis center?
Sometime in April, we're hoping. It just kind of depends on when we get those final concepts back from our consultant. But I think the council meeting's the 17th of April, so we'll look at doing that prior. We'll poll the board to see, what's a good day for the majority of everybody via email, and then we'll kind of go from there.
I don't know if this falls under our jurisdiction or not, but how about art? No, we used to do it for the downtown committee. We've done one art project, which is Lupe. Are we going to try to pursue more art projects?
That's something that's kind of been talked about in some of the subcommittee meetings on the comp plan is public art. So we'll see where that lands. We're not budgeted for public art projects right now, especially in our parks budget. But I have a couple of ideas that I would like to do. I talked to EA about this too, and we have an opportunity, I think, at our bridge in the park. I think it'd be neat if we could do a mural, have some artists come in, maybe several artists come in and, go through a vetting process and get it pre-approved, but paint the columns of the bridge downtown, do some artwork there. And then, we have opportunities along the trail to maybe do some public art pieces there too, but we don't have any budget at this time. So we'll just kind of see what kind of comes out of the comp plan and go.
Can it be incorporated into the tree and bench program?
Public art?
I
For
mean,
like
with
public donation?
yeah, like if somebody wanted to, instead of doing a tree or a bench, if they wanted to do, I mean, obviously it'd have to be seriously vetted, but
Right. Yeah, that's just not something that we've really looked at, but, we we just have, it's not something we've had a lot of time to focus on is public art.
One of the not so beautiful things in Lewis Hayes Park is when you look back towards town, there's this big solid a concrete wall. Is that under the pavilion? Or is that, it's close to the pavilion? I don't know if that's under the pavilion.
that's the bridge, right? You mean under the
No,
bridge?
it's over towards where the pavilion is. It's about a 30 by 40 foot, just
Yeah.
concrete wall. Is that the
Retaining wall.
pavilion?
It's under it, yeah.
Is that, seems to me that we ought to be asking the high school art group to come in every year and put a new mural up on that wall.
Yeah, I was
And-
thinking about that also
And
with.
just put something there that changes. Now, we may not like what they do, but, it'll only be there for a year, and then the next class will come and
Paint it
cover it up.
over?
Paint it over,
If they submitted ahead of time of what the
Oh, yeah.
idea is, then you would
Yeah,
know.
you could have a
We could have
contest.
guidelines.
Yeah, but
But-
that is not real pretty, but we had just something. And I think we get the high school art group, or maybe a grade school art group, I don't know. but
We've
somebody.
got so many artists in our community, that would also be a great idea to do in the hospital parking lot. Those blank, ugly concrete walls that are in there,
Yeah.
that would be more attractive.
Are there paints that are
And
durable?
that you could use, yes, you could use all the art classes that we have in our schools. A competition of kind to,
Well, what I'm interested in is something that would over 12 months sort of
yeah.
fade out and be gone, and they'd cover it up and put something else up there. And I don't know.
A lot of times with projects, implementing them is good. The maintenance is what becomes more problematic. You know, if they weather away, maybe that's okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is there anything else on the agenda? If not, then the last item, number 6, is announcements of community interest. Is anyone-
I have one.
Okay.
We have a couple of board members that this will be their last meeting. Jay just walked out, and then Miss Kane, this will be her last meeting. Her term is up, so wanted to thank you for your service on the board.
Thank you.
And everything that you do. And then, Mr. Schrader, yours, of course, is up for reappointment, and you've reapplied. So our council will be appointing the new members, I think at the second meeting this month. So we'll find out who our new board members are and put them through orientation and get them going.
I have
Should
a
introduce prospective board members.
Sure. Would you like to come on up?
Oh, okay.
You'd like to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Celeste Hammond, and I have applied for the board. And I'm relatively new to Kerrville, been here about 3 years, and my background is in fitness and wellness. And also, I have a background in accounting, so I thought that would be a good combination to serve on a city board. And I'm totally blown away by the number of events that you do. It's a lot of work to put on events, because I have done that in the past, and this is really impressive about the number of events that you put on. And so I would very much like to be a part of planning and implementing and volunteering and being a part of looking at all of the great stuff that the Parks is doing and where we can go with that. I'm also a swim coach as well, so I'm very interested in the aquatic center and the possibility of having some really good masters swim classes and masters swimming. So
Thank you.
I had the opportunity to meet with Celeste a few weeks ago and gave her some good background on the board, and of course she had then applied, and I think she'd be a great addition to it. We've actually, I think, have like 7 or 8 applicants this time around, which is crazy. We're usually begging people to be on this board, but we have a lot, and of course council will interview and make their appointments, so more to come.
I just had a couple of general observations, since part of our duties includes public information that we get. And I've had a few people, and EA, I'm glad you're here to hear this, they feel that some of the 2050 planning, the questions preload the conclusion, and there's concern that maybe there's more emphasis on development and less on maintaining the quality of life that we all know and love here. So for what it's worth. The other thing is to remember the the entrance corridor on 16 from I-10. You know, we offer a lot in this community, but when people get off the interstate, the first thing they see is what our Highway 16 is. Perhaps it could be undertaken to add some trees or landscaping to soften the effects, ideally underground utilities, but you know, that's another thing. But that's the input that I've gotten from the community, and I just wanted to pass it along.
Appreciate that. It's going to be really critical, I think, over the next 2 or 3 months. It's kind of where the rubber meets the road on, you know, implementing those type of aspects if that's what the community desires.
My own personal thing would be to say that I noticed a lot of really fine awards of recognition to people for their contributions, and I don't remember if the Master Naturalists have received recognition for what they do faithfully at the Butterfly Garden in the Kerrville Shriner Park. I'm on the email list, and these people just, they're so dedicated to being there every Thursday morning to keep that place beautiful, to attract butterflies. It's a benefit to the people who visit the park, and so if they haven't been commended for their work, I suggest that that be considered. So that's all I have.
Okay.
I have one more item. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jackie.
I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank the Park and Recreation Department and this board. It's been my privilege to serve on this board. Been through a great development process. The trail, or the bulk of the trail, the new softball complex, soccer complex, and it's been great to be here for the development stage. And again, I would hope, since our assistant city manager is here, that funds would continue to come in for the maintenance of these facilities. And I think that's important. There's nothing sexy about maintenance, but you build something and you really need to take care of it. And again, possibly with public-private funds to help some areas. So, and the last thing I would say is I would commend the staff of this department for a department this size, and I come from Dallas, which is a huge department. The dedication of this staff, the hard work they do, it's really hard to replicate. So I commend you and I thank you for this privilege.
Thank you, Jackie.
The last thing I had, the entrance to Louise Hayes Park kind of looks kind of drab.
I was just noticing that the other day when I drove through it. It's landscaping.
Landscaping,
Yeah. Yeah, we're working on that.
Okay.
It's on our list.
And I have one quick, we broke through on the trail. There's temporary signs out at Kerrville Shriner Park for the new trail. There's certain sections that are not fully finished. Just so you know, if you go walking, we haven't fully finished all of the trees that kind of need to come out, and the actual trail surface still needs to be kind of weed-eated and shaped. But we're now into spring break, and we're slowly getting the people that are, had said that they would help with all that. So there's still, you can walk the whole thing, and there's temporary signage up if you're over there. It's all clear, but it's not fine-tuned finished yet. So if you go into the park office and say, there's still some trees that are, it's like we're getting there. It's kind of a slow process. It takes a lot of man hours, but we just put in a lot of the waivers there, and we calculate probably close to 150 man hours or more of people that came out to volunteer to help do that. So it was a big effort, but if you go out there, it makes it a 7.5-mile loop.
Wonderful. That's great.
So single loop. So there's more to come so that you're totally off the road, but for right now you have to use parts of the road.
We appreciate your efforts and all your hard work with that, Lisa. It's really incredible, and we've already seen a bunch of users on it and hearing compliments through the office. And I'm getting some as
people
well.
happy?
People are happy. They're neat. They like the curly fries.
Yeah.
that y'all did there, and they like the fact that it's going to be interconnecting, and they can eventually get off the road.
Yeah.
So good job,
Thanks.
and thank you.
Celeste is out there a lot of days.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to recognize and thank her for her attendance. Delane Siegelman, and thank you for your interest, Delane, and looking forward to having you sit up here in a couple of months and help with the city council.
And I would reiterate what Celeste just said. I'm amazed at the things that you're doing and for free. A lot of families can enjoy the events that you're putting on, the night movie in the park, all of those things. That's wonderful. So kudos to the park staff and all of the board too. Thank you for your input. Good teamwork.
I think we're through, so I call for a move to adjourn, a motion, if we need one. All right, you do it, Jackie. And, that's the cloudy area in the parliamentary rules of order. There's no clear way to shut down a meeting, but since we have a motion and a second, we can all agree we're adjourned.